Hello.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Hi, H. Alan Scott with Fusion. You all look great. Mike, you had mentioned, Mr. Ruffalo, in your speech, Flint, Michigan. I was wondering, if you could elaborate more on what do you think films like Spotlight, which I can't get out of my head, can do for citizens in Flint, Michigan, and just people in general to inspire them, no, Mr. Ruffalo and Mr. Keaton as well. Or was it Mr. Keaton or Mr. Ruffalo? I forget which one mentioned Flint. Oh, yes.
So here's the situation. I don't think Flint, Michigan, I'm not sure about this actually, but I'm pretty sure Flint, Michigan doesn't have, in their local paper, doesn't have an investigative team in the local paper, and I stand corrected if somebody can prove me wrong, but that's what's going on in journalism right now, that newspapers across the world are losing money, and they don't have the money to have an investigative team or journalists, and they're cutting out a few other things. Had there been one, I would argue, and I think it's a strong argument, that they may have been ahead of the Flint, Michigan situation. But there's, I mean, we could talk on and on and on. You know, it always happens in poor neighborhoods, which are generally, you know, black or Hispanic or people of color. And as long as there's no one to represent, not just those, but the disenfranchised everywhere, or people who are fighting against unfair things. I don't want to just point the finger to giant, big corporations. That's not necessarily what I mean. Anyone. And so I mention it because there are a zillion Flint, Michigans out there. You know, well, maybe not a zillion, but there are a lot of them. And if had there been a spotlight put on that, I would argue that maybe they would have been a little bit ahead of the situation.
Hello, here. I'm here in the back. And maybe Mark wants to answer. I'm from Latin America, and of course in the movie you mentioned all the countries in Latin America that has been affected by this problem. And but there's still a lot of priests there. They're working, doing the same thing. There's a lot of like priests that now are being like promoted. I mean, it seems that things are not changing really the way they should be. So what should happen, in your opinion, in order to make a difference in this situation?
Well, some stuff has been done, but there's a lot more that can happen. Transparency is what SNAP and a lot of the survivors groups are asking for. Many of the archdioceses that have had molestations happening in them still haven't released the names of the priests who were known to be child molesters and rapists. And until that happens, like what Boston did recently, Seattle just released 77 names of priests starting from 1926 of documented child molesters. That's one of the major things that they're asking for. It'd be nice to see Cardinal Law actually in a prison cell instead of a palace in the Vatican. I think ultimately what these people want is their stories to be able to be told in the broad light of day, the bright, beautiful light of day. And how you do that is creating, I think, transparency. And the church is not known for being transparent. So that's a good place to start.
Hi. Hello. Art here from New York Amsterdam News. Congratulations for this wonderful movie. Mark, Michael, Rachel, all of you guys are amazing. Neil Huff is a friend who played Phil Saviano, and I've talked a lot about this film with him. He grew up Catholic, and what the movie did for how it affected him. So I wanted to ask you guys that I understand you guys got a chance to talk to some of the folks who were abused and and also the Spotlight team. How did it affect you, this film, and do you think entertainment is, Hollywood is, also has a responsibility like Spotlight and journalism? Is enough being done?
Not sure. I don't think we heard all of that, but
The question is, I mean, how did these stories affect you when you as part of this movie? And what do you think Hollywood is doing enough to bring such stories out and make a change?
I grew up in an Irish Catholic community in Boston, and to have grown up in that community and then to be able to be a part of the telling of this story, of the way these journalists went about actually telling this story and exposing the abuses of the Archdiocese in Boston and the Catholic Church is very rewarding. But I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean is it necessarily important that I come from Boston. I mean, as actors, it's very important. I mean, it's important to us to be a part of a story like this that gives voice to the survivors, that in our performances tell the story of the integrity and the doggedness of these journalists that told this story as thoroughly as they did. And you hope that it gives